All right, everyone. This is Raju Das from Corgi Cannon. They are a publisher, published or are publishing High Risers, which we talked about yesterday. Raju is here to talk to you about the business of developing games. Take it away, Raju.
Hi guys, I am really happy to be here. I've spent a couple of weeks talking to Josh and team and trying to build this little show talk with you. So I'm looking forward to hopefully getting some good information into your hands. So yeah, as you said, I'm Raju. I'm working with Corgi Cannon. We do publish games, but we consider ourselves marketing and PR, mostly focused on marketing and PR. And so we are basically going to be just relaying to you the information that we've been seeing, sort of the things that some developers trip up on, some reoccurring problems that people seem to have, and just going through some of these points that just regarding business, marketing, and finance that you guys should really take into consideration when you do start developing your games and when you want to release your games. So I'm going to go into the first slide, and we're going to talk about what I would consider the split of business when it comes to video game development. So the first point is what I would consider the business and the admin side of things. So this is talking about the vision, the goals that you want to complete, who are your competitors, and what are the games that are going to be released alongside yours or during the same time frame, and about the team behind the game. So who is it that you're going to employ or contract, and what are the things that you have to think about when it comes to getting the game finished and finalized to the highest quality that you can possibly produce. The second part is the marketing and the branding, the fun stuff, the creative stuff. So the promotional materials, the ad campaigns that you do through Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and so on. Social media side of things, so just as I said, through Twitter and Facebook, and even through Twitch, like we're doing right now. This is all part of the promotional materials that you'd be able to have. Networking, the most important part of marketing yourselves, and I would also consider the demos being part of your marketing and your brand, as well as the game itself. The game is almost part of the brand, not of the game itself, but of the development team, of the studio. So when you want to go onto the new projects, that will be part of your brand. And then the final thing is finance, which is a lot of people probably be rolling their eyes. It's not the most overly interesting thing in the world, other than my my accountancy friends will probably disagree with me there. But things to think about: raising funds, investments, getting published, possibly by a mainstream publisher who will actually invest money into your team and into the PR and the marketing side of things, and also going through budgeting. We'll go briefly through budgeting at the end of the talk, so that you guys know how to sort of swing money around when you need it, and when you get it from your investments and your raising funds. So let's go straight into the business and admin side of things. So this is going into what is it that makes your game interesting? What is it that makes your game unique? And what is it that you need to be concentrating on the most when it comes to the game? So the fundamentals of the business side of the game development. And the first thing I want to start off with is about the concept of the game, the idea of the game. So a lot of people, I don't know if you guys might have heard or not heard, but basically there is a concept within startups and the startup world and business world where they say ideas are easy, but making it a reality, that is the hard part. So the analogy that I always seem to use when I'm wanting to explain this is imagine you have a taxi driver. A taxi driver is a very knowledgeable person. I think most people could agree. They overhear a lot of conversations every single day. They take in and absorb a lot of information all the time. They're reading the news. They're up to date on everything in the world most of the time because they have a lot of time on their hands, and they absorb a lot of information. So we can consider them knowledgeable people. A taxi driver goes home one day after a long day and says to his partner, "I've got a wonderful idea. It's a fantastic idea. It's a revolutionary game that I really want to make, or a business that I really want to make." And then they have dinner, they get up the next morning, and he goes and does his taxi driving job again. And that's it. And in a few weeks' time, he'll have another idea which will revolutionize the world, and he'll keep on driving. And this is what we mean about ideas being easy or to a penny, is this idea that ideas and the concepts are obviously wonderful things, and they are good. And they need to be interesting and engaging, but it is the team behind the game. It is the understanding of your marketing and your promotional materials, and it's the quality of the development which is really going to make the difference between whether the game is made and is successful, or if it doesn't get completed and it's not. So there is this concept that once you've gotten past the idea stage, the focus is on what I would like to consider is the business, it's the team building, it's understanding your marketing, your promotion, and quality development. And then the next concept as well that you need to consider when going into the development of games is you have to look at who your target audience is. So taking a totally general view on this and using just general market statistics, we're going to say the general population of gamers are 35-year-old males who have full-time jobs. So really, really general, just going for the biggest group of people who we would be marketing gamers. Obviously, different games will have different segments, but we're just going to consider this for now. We're imagining this 35-year-old man comes home from work, maybe goes to the gym, has dinner, spends some time with the kids and with his partner, and then between, let's say, 8 and 10 o'clock, maybe 9 and 10 o'clock, he has an hour to an hour and a half to play some games. So your game and everyone else who's currently watching now and everyone else in the world who's developing a game are all in contention and are all vying for that man's 1 hour a day of his attention. Now, what is it that makes your game unique? What is it that's going to differentiate you from the competition? These are things that you need to consider when you have your concept of your game. Making a mirror of another game is fantastic. People always want to see games that they loved when they were younger or nostalgic for remade again in HD or in different retro styles. But you still need to bring in an edge. There needs to always be a USP, a unique selling point. So what is that? Because in the end, you are vying for that 1 hour a day from all these thousands and millions of people. Because nowadays the barrier to entry for individual games to actually get onto market is so low, there is a lot of competition out there. So the key points with business, just in terms of the fundamentals, the most important thing I would say, which we'll get onto in a second, is team building. Number 2 is competition. And number 3 is your vision and your goals. So when it comes to team building, you are trying to find the best people to get on your team. A lot of people bring on friends and family, and it can work if that friend or family member is good at what they do. And it can be very, very beneficial because there is already a pre-existing relationship there. But if they are subpar, and I'm not saying that everyone is, but if there is a doubt that they will be able to produce the quality of work that you want them to, it is important to go out and network, to find people, that are going to be able to work alongside you and produce the best quality of work. And I know it might sound obvious, but you'll be surprised with how many people are afraid of telling their friend that they don't want to work with them and that they need to find a proper developer or a proper concept artist, because they don't want to hurt their feelings. But it is integral to find the best people possible to join your teams, to give yourself the best opportunity to get out there, because nowadays there are teams out there who are willing to make those sacrifices. And those are the teams, a lot of the time, that could be the difference between selling your game and not selling your game. Which, I don't want to make it all about money, but if you don't sell the game, it isn't considered as a success. And then it's going to be very difficult for you to fund possibly the next game or the next game in your franchise. So yeah, think about those things: team building, competition, who are your competition, and your vision and your goals. So how will your concept of the game change as you think about those other two things? And how are you going to drive people towards your game? So I was just talking about this just a little bit earlier with Josh, and you guys will also, the rest of the team were talking about it as well on the stream. But this is what you're fighting against. So if you were releasing a game back in 2005 or 2004, you'd be looking at about 7 indie games being released on Steam in a year. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, depends on who's saying it. But that's the general gist of it. Then you go to 2005 and you're looking at, or 2006, you're looking at 71 games. Let's fast forward to 2012, you're looking at 379 games that you have to compete with. So 1 game per day is coming out. Let's fast forward to 2015, you got 2,964 indie games coming out in 1 year. And then last year, 4,207 games. And it's probably going to get higher again. Obviously, Steam Direct came out recently, so it may filter some out. But there are a lot of games out there who are vying for that customer or that gamer's attention. And he only has 1 hour of it. And he's got other things to do in his life, like his children and his friends and family and so on. So you really need to make it count. Every single thing you do that makes your game better and more unique is going to give you that upper hand against the other 4,000 games out there. So the next point that I want to go into is the marketing and the branding. When we go into the marketing and the branding side of things, we want to, as I was discussing just now, we're talking about networking, getting to know multiple people, and you're going to have a lot of the focus that you want to put into your development needs to now be split. So it's now not just going to be about developing the game all the time. It's also going to be about promoting the game, getting it out there. Again, it's a really obvious thing when you hear it, but it's surprising how many developers don't know what they're doing or didn't plan on wanting to go out there and shout at the top of their lungs about their game. So we need to figure out ways of getting it into other people's hands. Now, the first and most important thing in marketing, if you remember nothing from this talk except for one thing, remember that networking is king. Even as it isn't in the word, it's literally the most important thing you can possibly do for the success of your game. And as I said there, like down below, the old adage is true when it comes to promotion, is that it's not it's who you know, not what you know. You may have the most wonderful game or be the most amazing developer, but if you don't know the people to get it out there, whether it's a PR company or the journalists themselves or key people in the industry, no one's going to hear of it, or a very limited amount of people are going to hear of it. So there are numerous ways of networking, which we'll touch on in a moment. But that is something that you really want to focus on. We always wonder why some games can be terrible, but they can get a huge amount of publicity, and that is because of the networking, and it's so important. So just keep that in mind if you learn nothing else from this. Networking is really important. Number two, social media marketing. When it comes to social media marketing within small indie teams, you are looking at trying to get value, the best value out of social media. You want to be flooded constantly with people who want to sell you advertisement space, that you're going to spend money here, there, and everywhere on Facebook ads and targeted advertisement through Facebook and Google ads and so on. But if you have a small fund, whether you got that from Kickstarter or through Investor or so on, you want to make sure that the money isn't just being wasted. First of all, targeted advertisement is wonderful, and you're going to get exactly the people who you need on your platform. So if you're making a horror game, you want to be able to get the specific people who play horror games. You don't want to be getting the people who are limited purely to Animal Crossing, Animal Farm. That's something else. But Animal Crossing or Cooking Mama, you want to have the people who are playing, Dead Space, and other games which may be similar to your game. So make sure that targeted advertising is something in the back of your mind, but you can do it with value options. Twitter is the thing that I always talk about to people. It is an amazing platform that can get you to exactly who you want to get to very, very quickly. But all it takes is, instead of spending money, you have to spend time. So instead of spending, 300 or 400 pounds, or in a lot of your cases, dollars, to get, a few thousand hits, you now have to go in and do maybe 20 or 30 tweets over a couple of days to try and get that same or similar response. And obviously, the more followers you build up on Twitter, the more responses you'll get. So it is harder work, but it's definitely there is a lot of reward from doing it, and it's free. So there are ways of marketing your games out there for people who want a limited budget. So Twitter is one of them. YouTube is another. And this is where the networking comes in. And we'll talk about the next the other possible way of networking doing wonders for you as well. But YouTube is another thing. There are hundreds and thousands of Let's Players out there who specialize in different games, some of them specialize in alphas and betas and demos, and some of them specialize in AAA titles. There is just a huge amount of people out there who will test your game and play your game live in front of people. Now, it means that you will probably get some flack if your game is in its early stages. You could get some flack if some people don't like it because it's very, very niche. But it's a great way of getting the game out there. If it's on people's lips, then it means that you are being talked about. Instead, you don't want to become the developer who makes a phenomenal game, but it's a phenomenal game in your bedroom. You are a bedroom developer, like no one ever knows about it. So you want to make sure that you get as much attention as possible. One thing I tell some people, which you need to obviously take with a pinch of salt and make sure that you do everything correctly around it, but it's this concept where you have some negative PR being spread about your game, maybe not spread about your game, but said about your game. And in that way, you are able to fix it in the public light. So when you do something goes wrong, and then you fix it, then everyone knows about you fixing it. It's something that Facebook employed a huge amount back when it started up. Facebook would have these horrible stories posted all around the internet and on the news and on CNN and everything. It even had an entire movie made, um, and about like the disasters and the stuff that happened behind Facebook or what's going on at Facebook. And the reason why they did that was because it was always in the media limelight. So smaller companies like MySpace and there were other social media companies back then. They completely got wiped out because no one was paying them any attention. And then what Facebook would do is they would come along and then they would get all of this positive attention onto their brand from fixing these problems. So I'm not saying you should go and do that, but remember that any amount of marketing or PR, even if it's slightly negative, like you're having glitches and bugs in your game in the early stages, it can be a good thing. It gives the community something to talk about. It gives them something to latch onto, and sometimes it even gives them something to root for. If there's an underdog, people love an underdog. They want things to work. That's the reason. One of the reasons why indie gaming is thriving is because you have these small teams creating incredible achievements. And they, look at the Five Nights at Freddy franchise. It's become huge, and it was an overnight success. And obviously, there are probably lots and lots of intricate things that went on in the background. And I'm not saying everyone will be, a new FNAF game, but it is something to consider that that these small amounts of PR can be huge and they can change the way that you're perceived in the public limelight. So going back to networking again, the other thing that you'd like to do with networking and social media marketing is get journalists on board. And they can be more tricky. Journalists are generally quite busy, or bloggers can be quite busy because they're writing a lot of pieces constantly. They're writing a lot of articles, as was discussed earlier in the stream. You could literally be writing articles probably for every single day for the rest of your life, every moment of every single day, and you still would never catch up with the amount of games that are being produced. So they are very, very busy, and there are always games coming out. So it is integral that you don't just wait on journalists to find your games. It is important, and obviously bloggers as well. It's important to reach out to them, whether it's through Twitter or going to their websites directly, their blogs directly, and hitting them up with an email or a tweet, or even helping them out. Maybe smaller bloggers and smaller people on Twitter who need more follows or who need more readers. You can help them out using your own network. And the larger your network becomes, the more people you have who are influencers, the more your name and the more the game will be able to get out there. So I'm going to drill this home every single point. Networking is the most important thing you could possibly do, aside from developing your game. So network. I'm just going to keep on repeating that. The third point I've got here is the game release and the demo itself. Now, the demo is pretty obvious. It's a marketing point. It's a way of getting people on board onto your platform. It's a way of getting the product into people's hands. Something that a lot of I'll use another example from another industry again, is the clothing industry. It's what we when they get us into the store, they want us to try the clothes on, because as soon as you try the clothes on and you see yourself in it, you perceive what you will look like in the public, socially, with your friends. You perceive what it would look like on you, and so you have internally, if you like it, you've already bought it. You've bought into that idea. And the same way, the demo is a way of you trying it on. It's a way of you trying to get people onto your platform so that they fall in love with the game before you've done the final release. And in the indie scene, maybe not in the AAA scene, because people expect perfection, even at a demo level, from big AAA developers, like when Overwatch came out from Blizzard. They they expected in the alpha that things wouldn't glitch out or bug out. But in the indie scene, that's completely different. People are expecting bugs, they're expecting glitches, they're expecting funny, stupid things that are going on, not experience destroying glitches or things that take you away from immersion, but they're expecting things that are not going to be that they can fix, that they can help, that they can talk to the community about. You want to activate that side of the community as much as you can. And however much you are afraid that people are going to be angry at you or upset that these bugs and glitches exist, you want to get them out there because it's a way of forming trust. It's a way of forming bonds. If the community and those individuals who are playing your game can come to you and talk to you, that is a great way of having, PR. It's a great way of you being able to build that relationship, that personal relationship with your development team and the community, so that there is that trust. And trust is a huge thing because it means that going back to branding, or not going back to branding, but talking about branding, it brands your company. It tells people that, hey, company X is really, it's really trustworthy. And we know that when they bring out their next game, I definitely want to fund it, or I definitely want to buy it, because I know it's going to be good quality, and I know it's going to be fun to play, and I know these guys are going to listen to us. So however harder or tough it is to release a game that has tons and tons of bugs and glitches in it when it's in its early stages, the demo is a great way of being able to market your game because it proves to people how much you care. And that is something in the indie community especially that is really important, because it is such a tight-knit community and there is so much gossip and discussion all the time, which this expo attests to. It's nice and small and it's tight-knit. Demos are great. And then the final release of your game, that is your headline article. That's the banner that you put on your website, and that is the actual, to excuse the negative phrase, but it's the final nail in the coffin. It is the do or die moment. It's the thing that basically says to the world, this is who we are. So all of those bugs and glitches, all of the marketing, all of the the branding and the networking, this is all amounted to this final product that gets released. And it needs to show what your company, what your development team, what your studio is worth. What is it? What is it worth? What is its value? Did you commit to the promises that you said in your marketing campaign? Were you able to really succeed in every point that you said that you promised that you would succeed in? You don't want to be a game like, and I've completely blanked on the game right now. It was an open world space exploration game recently came out, and I cannot remember the name of it. Saved my life. Josh, you can possibly help me out, but No Man's Sky. Thank you. Thank you. So No Man's Sky, and they made all these huge promises before they came out, and then they came out, and people were like really, really pumped and really hyped, and they did everything perfect. They did the demos, they did the social media marketing, the networking, everything was perfect. It came out, and they didn't live up to it, and they are ruined. They were all over the news, and this is where I said, take it with a pinch of salt. Negative PR can go too far. That is when it goes too far. Is that you promised a huge amount and you did a lot of work, but you just didn't live up to those promises. And it's really, really important that that is the thing that brands you. So when you release the your final game, the final release of the game, you must have all of these different points ready and set up, and have that underlying support, which is, if you've got problems with our game, come to us and we will listen. because that helps so much. Because sometimes there are going to be game-breaking bugs that you've just completely looked over, and people will be receptive if you are receptive and if you are apologetic and so on. So it is really important to build that trust, really build that core audience that can really feel like you connected with them. Because then when releases and things go wrong, you have that to fall onto. And you're not just, plummeting like the guys from No Man's Sky. So yeah, main point, networking, again, it's who you know, not what you know. I mean, obviously you need to know how to program and develop the game, but networking is key. And timing your social media marketing and having a good understanding of your audience is really important. So this is going back to Twitter, going back to your social media marketing and your campaigns. And we mentioned this before in the stream, which is don't release or don't make your marketing campaigns when you know there are going to be other things going on. So a good example of this, which again, I cannot remember the name of the game. It wasn't, well, the main reason because they completely failed. It was a zombie survival game, which was coming out towards the end of last year. And they released their demo in the same week that Overwatch was released. Now, that is not a good thing to do. It was the Overwatch demo was announced a while before then, so they knew that it was coming up. Well, at least they should have known that it was coming up. And they got 0. Do not let that be your game. If you release in a weekend or a week when there is if there's a Call of Duty coming out or an Assassin's Creed coming out or something where all the gamers in the world, whether they're indie or not, are going to want to have their attention dedicated to, don't release don't release your trailer in that week. Don't release or on that day. Don't release your demo in that week. Hold off for 2 or 3 weeks. It's a great idea to hit the holiday season with sales and hit the holiday seasons with release if you can sort of wheedle your way past all the big releases. But sometimes it's actually better to do it in the more dead months when people have less to play and there are less things coming out. Unless it's like specific. So like, I don't know, again, using the Five Nights at Freddy's example, it comes out during Halloween. That's an option. You get some buzz generated that way, but really try to make sure your timing is on point. So I'm not going to harp on about marketing and branding anymore. I think you get the idea. Networking, absolutely key. Social media marketing and game release and demo. So those are the most important parts. Right, now the finance. The finance is something that is we want to sort of shun it to the back of our minds. It's something we don't want to face up to. We don't want to look at the numbers. It's painful. Sometimes when I have to look at my bills or look at our expenses for my company, you're like, when did I spend this money? I don't remember. No, this is not right. I don't want to. Anyway, and it's something we all have to deal with. So let's get it out of the way and let's try and make sure that we do it the right way as opposed to doing it the wrong way, which is the reason why a lot of companies will or studios end up failing or breaking down or breaking apart. And we've seen it multiple times. And I'll show you the key tells of a studio that didn't do too well with their budgeting. So first things first, raising funds. It is absolutely important, unless you have a set part-time job and you're a small team and you're going to be doing things slowly, to raise funds. I don't need to really explain that much further. You can go to angel investors. You can go to family investments. You can obviously invest in your game personally, so whether it's from a secondary job or from savings. Crowdfunding is incredibly popular right now. Kickstarter is obviously a very big place to go when it comes to video games, but Indiegogo is just as viable, and so is GoFundMe. Although Kickstarter is has the most buzz going around it at the moment. So it's probably that you can choose where you feel has the best upside for you. And then obviously, if you want to go from being indie to being published, publish is a great way to go. There is one key point that you need to remember though, and this is something, again, I keep on repeating myself, but this is something that a lot of people stumble on. As I was saying earlier, there is a very, very low barrier to entry now. Unity is free. Unreal is free. Twitter is free. Twitter analytics are mostly free. Scheduling apps are free. You're getting the picture. There is so much out there, so many tools that are free that you need to be on point. You need to have your A game. You need to have that brilliant team that we were talking about. The marketing campaign needs to be really, really well thought out, and your demo needs to have branded your studio perfectly before these publishers will want to go near you, or an investor wants to go near you, because they do not want you tainting their name, and they know that there are enough games out there, these thousands of games out there, possibly only 10 or 20 of them that have done all that exactly how they should have done it. And that is where they want to put their money. That's where they want to get the rights to those games, or have a cut of those games, or whatever it is they want, or whatever it is that you want. So they are expecting the highest level of development quality, the highest amount of work ethic. That is what they expect from you. So if you're going for anything beyond Kickstarter, and I would even say when it comes to crowdfunding, you need to prove that even more, because you have sometimes hundreds, if not thousands, of investors. You need to keep those things in consideration. That is what sort of generates this fundamental amount of trust, is if you have got this work ethic and you've got these high quality results that you can show for it. And now comes, I would say, is the final part. So question from the audience: what is the timeline for going? Oh, I've just lost it. Sorry, can you post that question again so I can read it again? Timeline for going a publisher or investor, how much should be done? Okay, I'm going to have to quickly just I'm going to quickly pop out of the... Actually, you know what? I'll take questions afterwards, because then I can come out of the chat, out of the slideshow, and then I can read the questions. Because right now I've got the slideshow, and then we can go back through, if that's okay with everyone. Cool, fantastic. I'll just finish this off quickly, because this part is just going to be basically a rundown of what you need to remember, and then we'll go back onto those questions about publishing and so on. So yeah, this is the final slide. So the last thing you need to think about is your budget breakdown. This is the painful part. This is when you need to look at the money that you have in your bank, and your accounts, and the amount of money that's going to be coming in via investments, whether that's funding or publishers or crowdfunding or whatever it is. And you need to break down the budget. Now, I've listed it out here. This is not in any order. This is just what you need to be thinking about. So let's go through them one at a time. So contractors and salary. You need to be thinking about, if I am a one-man team, I'm just going to make an example up here. If I am a one-man team and I am releasing my game in 10 months' time, do I take out a contractor, or do I have a salaried developer or concept artist with me, or whatever it is? You need to ask these questions for yourself. So a contractor is going to be a one-time, probably there's going to one-time payment. There'll probably be a premium attached to that because they're working for such a small, short amount of time. But it'll be a one-time payment that will never go over that, and they have to deliver on what they promised you. Whereas a salaried worker, programmer, or whatever it is, you wouldn't have to pay them every single month. But it means that you want to have access to them for potentially 24/7. So these are things that you need to weigh up. in terms of the amount of money that you want to put towards them. A lot of times in first-time game or even second-time game developers go for contractors because it means they don't have to have office space. They don't have to have more time dedicated to individuals who may only need to be there for a little while. So say concept artists may only need to be there at the beginning of the project. They may not have to be there the entirety. Same thing with sound engineers and musicians. They may only have to be there for a specific amount of time to make their contribution, and then they leave. So doing contracting jobs, getting contractors for your projects is sometimes more beneficial monetarily wise. Then think about number of contractors. I put that as second point because sometimes people are asking the question of, do I go for maybe a small team of people to do something for me, or do I just go for one person who's just really good at it? And I would always say, again, it's how you work. If you work really well within a team and within a group of people, go with a team. Obviously, think about money. How much money are you spending to what are you getting out of it? These are considerations that you need to make, and don't be shy about talking about money. It's something that we all have to deal with, and it's something that we all need or want. So, sure, I've just been given 5-minute warning, so we'll be finishing up pretty quickly. When it comes to number of contractors, if you work well with just one person, work with one person. If you work well with a team, work with a team. If you have the money to go with one or the other, then obviously think about that as well. Living expenses, I put this in here because if you are going for a crowdfunding campaign, you are most likely doing it, or are going for investment, you're most likely doing it so that you can quit your part-time job and go full on into the project. That also means that when you go and you ask for investment, or you go onto crowdfunding platforms, that you are looking to generate enough money that you will be able to live off of that. Now, I'm not saying you go off on a lavish lifestyle buying yachts, but it does mean that you need to consider what you're going to need. So if you are that one person who's working out of his bedroom for the next 10 months, you need to have enough money so that you can pay rent, that you can eat and drink water, and your electricity bills and your internet bills. These are important and are necessary for you to complete the game. Again, do not be shy about factoring this in when it comes to your investments, because the worst thing that can happen is you don't have enough money to pay for your internet bill 1 month, and you're not able to work on the game anymore, and that's game over, literally and figuratively. So yeah, make sure that you consider that into your budget when it comes to, if you're a small team, that's something you will have to consider. Marketing and promotion, obviously making sure you pay the fees for people who are doing marketing for you, or if you're doing Facebook ads and Google ads, those things are important. Paying for the fees to your PR company if you're working with a PR or advertising company. And then also fees, porting, licensing from, once you get over a certain threshold, Unreal starts charging you, I think, commissions and royalties. And you've got to obviously think about porting to like Xbox or PS4 or PC and so on. And then the final thing, which is just things you need to think about, is do you need new computers? Will you need an office if you have multiple people with you? Do you need a graphics tablet? These sort of things are also integral for you to make a good game. So you may need these things. Those also need to be considered in your budget. And I think that pretty much covers everything I wanted to talk to you about today. So I will just quickly flash this up here. Thank you for watching. You can obviously find us here at CorgiCannon and corgicannon.com, but we're going to quickly answer some questions. So Josh, you may need to mess around with how the windows are working, because otherwise it's going to turn into an infinite loop.
All right. If you just go straight to your webcam, I can just fix it so that it goes straight onto you.
Yep. So I'll just quickly change the settings on Skype.
I'm just going to go to the splash screen for a second here, and I'll fix your cam.
Sure. Stop sharing. Okay, cool. So I've stopped sharing now.
So the question that we had
Yeah.
from the audience, Raspberry Games, Dean Razavi asked, what is the timeline for going to a publisher or an investor? How much work should be done on the game? How many months of development should be left before you start talking to investors and publishers?
Sure. So so that's a
Sorry about that.
wow. No, it's fine. So with regards to a timeline of going to a publisher or an investor, it's really going to be about the time. Okay. Going to an investor can be any time. So it's the same as sort of crowdfunding. You're going to be going when you can show your project off. If you want, obviously, if you want to be successful, you're going to be wanting to show your game off. So you're going to be able to have something that's possibly playable. You're going to want to have like trailers available already, and possibly having it tested a little bit beforehand. If you're going towards the investor route, so if you want to actually get some individual who is going to just invest in you a large amount of money. So in terms of a timeline, it really depends on how fast you work, but you want to have those individual things ready. And when you go and meet said investor or a publisher, you're going to want to have enough information and enough work done that he or she is going to be able to say they have trust in that project. It's going to get that trust in that project is going to get completed, and you're going to be able to deliver on what you are saying you want to deliver on. So there's not really a timeline. It's just when you are ready, you will be ready, and you have those things. And I will happily give out my email address in the chat or whatever. So if you want to ask me any individual questions that's very specific to your game, then I'm happy to answer those questions as well. But also, you've asked how much should be done, how many months of development left before you talk to these people. Yeah. So as I said, it's if you are talking about getting published or getting an investor on board, it's when you it's once you've done those things, once you've gotten like the trailer, a demo, and so on sorted out, and then you will be ready, because it's not like you're waiting for your release to get the publishing, because you need it before then, and you need the money before then as well, so you can do the marketing and so on.
All right. Was that all the questions, Rev? I didn't see something.
Yeah, that was all that I saw. I was just kind of scanning back. It looks like there was a lot of conversation going on around it, not so much directed questions.
Okay. Well, thank you, Raju. Again, that's Raju Das from Corgi Cannon, and the Twitter is @CorgiCannon.
Yeah, @CorgiCannon.
And like you said, feel free to hit him up on email. Are you going to be in chat for a little bit?
Yeah, I'll be in chat for a little while. But my email, I'll just type it into the chat right now. Is this? So if you have,
yeah, you gotta whisper it to me or Rev or whoever.
Okay, sure. I'll whisper it to these guys. But basically, if you want to contact me, you know, I'll be more than happy to help any guys out with, you know, strategy help or, strategy help or like business help, in terms of, you know, consultation. So just let me know, and I'm more than happy to help.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and I'm gonna pop you out of the Skype chat here, but he'll be in the stream chat for a little bit, and we'll move on in about 10 minutes to the next game exhibit.